This conference will now be recorded.
I guess good morning. I hope you're able to hear me. Can anyone please confirm?
Yeah, yes, we are able to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So this is Bhaskar. I have 13 plus years of IT experience, and I'm working for one of the Indian-based company from Hyderabad. So currently, I'm working for Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks in my current project. Apart from that, we have a other technologies as well. So this is briefly about me. And before starting Azure Data Factory or Azure Databricks, do you have any idea about a big data? Or do you have any idea about Azure Data Factory? Where exactly we are going to use Azure Data Factory? How did you know that?
Not much. Yeah.
Okay. How did you know this? There is a data factory. Did you get it from your friends or from anyone else?
Yeah, actually, Azure Databricks is one of technology in our backend
Okay.
projects.
Okay. So in that way you got to know it.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's fine. I'll take you through the more in detail where exactly we are going to use Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks so that you'll get better clarity. So before this Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks come into picture, so there was a Hadoop. Most of you may be aware of this, at least the word. Hadoop is the ecosystem where we are going to have a options to provide the solution for your big data. So why big data came into picture is because there is a lot of systems are there were many devices to generate the business data. So data is getting exponentially high, very high, and because of that reason, if data is very huge, then processing is also going to take more time. So this Hadoop came into picture to provide the solution for your big data. The problem here is with Hadoop is completely on-premise, and we need to maintain your infrastructure. You need to have your own infrastructure. You need to keep your own administration team, run and maintenance, everything that you need to take care. So setting up environment on premise is time taking process. The cost is also very huge. Okay, so this is the particular place the other, I mean to say the Microsoft or AWS, they identified the gap in this particular place. So they came up with a different approach to provide the solution for your big data. So AWS also provides a solution for your big data, and Microsoft Azure also providing a solution for your big data. So when you compare with the other vendors with Microsoft is we have a Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is used to provide a solution for your big data without writing the code. That is the point. So it's a code-free ETL tool. Azure Data Factory is a code-free ETL tool. So how we can say that is a big data? In which terms we can say big data is if we have a huge volume of data, if your current system is taking a longer time to process the data, or is your current system is not able to store your business data, that kind of data we can call it as a big data. So in terms of volume, we can say it is a big data. So when you have a huge volume of data, then definitely your system is going to take very longer time to process it. If you go for traditional ETL tools like Informatica or SSIS or any data stage, if you have a volume like very huge, then definitely it is going to take a days also. So I came across one of the job is running more than 24 hours. So if you're waiting for 24 hours means the data is not going to the customer. Users cannot see the latest data as part of their analysis. So we have to process as less time as possible. So traditional systems are not possible to handle your big data. So because of that reason, this Hadoop came into picture. And velocity, how fast it is going to process, that is what it is. If you have a huge volume of data, then it is going to slower if you go for traditional tools. But if you go for Hadoop, or if you go for Azure Data Factory or Azure Databricks, then they're going to take less time to process it, because they're specifically designed for running the process parallelly. Instead of doing your work with one person, if you can do with multiple persons the same work, you can do it finish as early as possible. So that kind of parallelism that you can get it from the Hadoop, Azure Data Factory, and Databricks. So here also we have a parallel processing. Here also we have a parallel processing. Here also we have a parallel processing. And these two are having additional features when you compare with Hadoop. The parallel processing is going to be done here with the disk-based parallel processing. But when it comes to here, RAM-based parallel processing. So that will be 100 times faster. So here we are going to have a Spark cluster. The Spark cluster is going to have 100 times when you compare with Hadoop. So that is the industry given that particular point. So whatever it is, we can provide the solution by using these three systems. So we can do it very faster. And we are going to have a varieties of data also. So varieties of data means like you're going to have a structured data, you're going to have a semi-structured data, you're going to have a unstructured data. So market is having even semi-structured data. If you go for JSON files, lightweighted files, we can transfer from one place to another place easily, because they're lightweighted. JSON files are XML files. So if you have a JSON files, then how you're going to read it? If you go for traditional tools, traditional ETL tools in the market, it's difficult. We cannot do it. If we have we are going to have a different kind of data that we are going to have, either it in a JSON files or text files. Okay, so unstructured data we can handle with all these three systems. So at this point of time, Azure Data Factory is not handling directly unstructured data. Azure Data Factory can handle structured and semi-structured data. If you have a unstructured data, then you can go with the Azure Databricks. So Azure Databricks is much more easier than your Hadoop. Hadoop is going to say, let's say this is also coding, this is also coding. If you're writing 100 lines of code here it is not 10 to 20 lines is more enough. You can easily do it in Azure Database. So there are many features that we are going to have as part of this Databricks. And veracity, all these four components, if we have all these four, then we can say it is a big data. So big data is a collection of data that is huge in value. Still it is going exponentially with the time. Already you are having very huge volume of data, and day to day it is getting increased. That kind of data we can say it is a big data. Or it is a data with so large size and complexity. You have a data that is so large and complexity, so that none of the traditional data management tools can store it. You have a traditional systems, the traditional systems are not able to store. If traditional system is not able to store, then you can treat that as a big data. So if traditional systems are not possible to provide a solution, is not possible to process the data, then even that case also we can say it is a big data. So simply we can say, if you have a huge volume of data, ultimately you cannot do process with the traditional systems. So if you wanted to store TBs of the data, then we have chosen this Hadoop very starting. Now Hadoop based run and maintenance is very more when you compare with cloud systems. So instead of going with the on-premise system, customers are looking towards to the cloud. Customers are looking towards to the cloud, either it is Azure or AWS. Even GCP also is entered into the big data solutions. They started providing a solution for the big data with BigQuery. But comparatively in the market, there is two competitors. One is Microsoft Azure and other is AWS. The beauty thing when you come for Microsoft, we can avoid writing a coding. So this kind of tool is not available with other vendors. This kind of tool is not available for other vendors. Whereas in Microsoft we're having. Maybe if you're heard about this Microsoft Fabric. If you know about this, understanding this Microsoft Fabric is easier. So Microsoft is coming very soon. Now it is public review, preview it is available. Very soon they're going to be generally available. So Microsoft Fabric is for data engineers. Microsoft Fabric is for data scientists. Microsoft Fabric is for even Power BI also. So this is the drastical change is going to be happen, and they're trying to avoid writing the code, and we can combine all together at one place as a serverless service, SaaS service it is. Software as a service they're coming. So you can feel the same features as part of this Microsoft Fabric. So we don't require to write a code. So that is the main intention that I wanted to say here. Let's say, for example, if I wanted to go for Data Factory to provide the solution for your big data. I wanted to get the solution for your big data. Then I'm going to use this Azure Data Factory. What is this Azure Data Factory? So Azure Data Factory is a cloud-based integration service. It is a cloud-based integration service. If you are aware of any ETL tools, or if you hear about this ETL extraction, transformation, loading, there are many traditional tools like Informatica, SQL Server integration services, and we have a data stage. There are many ETL tools in the market. Those are all on-premise ETL tools. All these tools are on-premise ETL tools. But when it comes to the Microsoft Azure Data Factory, this is a cloud-based integration service. What it is going to do is that orchestrates data movements. You can prepare the data movements from one place to another place. It's not only that, we're also going to do the data transformations. We're also going to do the data transformations without writing the code. If you go with Hadoop, for reading you have to write a code. For doing transformation you have to write a code. For loading data into the disk, again you have to write a code. And when you go for Databricks also, Azure Databricks also, for reading you have to write a code. To transform the data also we need to write a code. In the same way, to load the data into the destination also you need to write a code. The only difference between ADB and Hadoop is going to have a more number of lines of the code, and when you come to here Databricks, we are having less number of lines of code. And ADB allows you to write any kind of language, like you can use the Scala, you can use the PySpark, you can use the SQL, you can use the R. So different kind of languages we can use it. But when you go for Hadoop, I think we need to go with Java, right? So that is going to take more number of lines of code. But when it comes to the Azure Data Factory, we don't require to write a code to read the data. We don't require to write a code to transform the data. and we don't require to write a code to load the data also. It is completely code-free ETL tool. Azure Data Factory is a code-free ETL tool. We don't require to write a code to move the data, to apply the transformations between diverse data sources, various data sources, and cloud compute resources. So you'll be having a source, and you'll be having a destination. To read the data, we don't require to write a code. To transform the data, we don't require to write a code. And to load the data also, we don't require to write a code. At the scale, so you can increase the compute power. If you need 5 persons, you can take 5 persons. Okay, every person is like one compute power, one system, you just imagine, or one node. So as many nodes as you want, you can specify here. So because of that reason, it improves the performance. So parallel processing is available. And we can also read the data from the source parallelly. Parallel reading is available, parallel processing available as part of this data factory and even Azure Databricks. So this is about Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is used to provide the solution for your big data. And Azure Data Factory is a cloud-based integration services that orchestrates data movements from data movement and data transformation. So two different kind of activities that we are going to do it. We are going to orchestrate data movement. So data movement, we can also call it as a data ingestion and transformation. So transformation is required, data movement is required. Why we need to move the data from one place to another place? And why we need to go for transformation? I'll give a little more clarity about it. Any question as of now?
Yeah, no, we are good.
Okay. So let me show you here. I wanted to talk about how your data source is going to be there. If you're having a business data in some place, that place may be anything, any kind of a storage it is. So wherever you're having a business data, I wanted to call it as a business system, or I wanted to call it as a OLTP system. Anything that you can call it, business system or OLTP system. Your business system is going to have a raw data. You're going to have a here raw data only. So I'm just directly saying only a business system. That means your business data may be there in the blob storage. Your business data may be there in the SQL server. Maybe it is in some other systems. So wherever you have a business data, all your organizational data, wherever it is distributed. So that kind of system, we can call it as a OLTP system or business system. Your transaction data is sitting there. So raw data is distributed across the different systems, different platforms. I wanted to integrate all this data. I wanted to keep it at one place. It's a distributed system. So this is going to be like a distributed system. Here is one source, here is one source. Something like this will be having multiple systems. So since your business data is distributed, if you go and directly use the data factory to transform the data, or if you use the Azure Databricks to transform the data directly, that is not going to give the good performance. So we need to ingest the data into cloud systems. We need to ingest the data into cloud platform. So cloud is also having, I mean to say Microsoft Azure is having various systems to store your business data, to integrate your business data. So what exactly you need to have a destination is, the destination is 100% it is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. ADLS Gen 2. 100%. You need to go with this. Why we need to go for with Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is because this is specifically designed for big data processing. This is specifically designed for whatever the service or whatever the system it is connecting to this particular place, that is going to support to give parallelly. So it accelerates your big data processing. So simply I can say Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 accelerate your big data processing. It makes it faster. If you try to read it from here, it will not do it. It will not support for parallel reading. But when you go here, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is going to help you to it fast your big data processing. So because of that reason, we are going to use this Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. The way your HDFS, if you are aware of HDFS, Hadoop Distributed File System, the way it is working, in the similar way it is going to work. So this is an on-premise distributed file system, whereas Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is cloud distributed file system. That is the only difference. The mechanism is 100% similar. So now we need to bring the data into this place. How you can bring it? Your data is distributed across the different platforms, different systems. How you can bring and how you can store it into this place. In this particular case, I'm going to use Azure Data Factory. I'm going to use Azure Data Factory. You can extract the data from the data sources without writing the code. The process of taking the data from your business systems, we can call it as a extraction. We can call it as extraction. So right after extracting, I'm not doing the transformation. If you try to do the transformation here, that will not go for parallel processing. So to utilize this parallel processing, to speed up the parallel processing, I'm going to use my data source as a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So because of that reason, here I'm not going to do any transformation. I'm going to load the data into the destination. So I just wanted to say it is loading. No transformation here. So because of that reason, we can call this Azure Data Factory is a ELT tool. ADF is ELT tool. You can also say ADF is ETL tool. What is the difference between that? Your data factory is working as a ELT tool. Your data factory is working also as ETL tool. ELT means extraction and loading. ELT means extraction and loading. After doing this extraction and loading, in the second stage we are going for transformation. In the second stage we are going for the transformation. So because of that reason, we can say Azure Data Factory is a ELT tool. After loading, we are doing the transformation. This entire part, this particular part, we can call this part as data ingestion. So data ingestion is very important. The first stage of any data factory projects is going to be data ingestion. You're not going to do transformation here. So once you have done this, the data is going to be stored here with block wise. So because of that reason, it supports parallel reading. It is specifically designed, this Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is specifically designed for big data processing. So I'll show you where exactly that is available. We are going to see how we can create this Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 and what are the different kind of options we are having, what is the pricing tiers we are having. All those things we are going to talk about it. Once you have a data in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, then what you are going to do is we are going to do the transformation in the second stage. So what is your data factory definition here? It is saying data movement. Data movement is data ingestion and then transformation. So we are going to say the transformation here, how it is going to be there. When you go for the transformation stage, your source is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. This is also going to have a raw data. Here also we have a raw data, but raw data is there in the unified place or integrated place or centralized location. All the data is sitting at one place now. Your business system was distributed, here it is integrated. Integrated means the data is there in the centralized location at one place. Now I'm going to take this Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 as a source. I'm going to use the data factory again, Azure Data Factory, to extract the data from the data sources. Again, ADF I'm going to take it. The process of taking data from ADLS, also we can call it as an extraction. We're extracting the data without writing the code. And we're also going to do the transformation. Without doing any coding, we are going to do the transformation. So once you have done the transformation, again you need to load the data into the destination. Now the destination is again ADLS Gen 2. But here we are going to have a cleanse the data. So the process of feeding the data into Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 or any storage that we can call as loading. What kind of data we are going to have? Since the data is transformed by using Azure Data Factory, we are going to have a cleansed data here. We are going to have a cleansed data. So transformed data is available here. This entire part we can call this as data transformation. So first stage is data ingestion and the second stage is data transformation. And you can use the Azure Data Factory to go for doing transformation. So once you have done the transformation, then you can load the data into Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Now, where exactly this Azure Data Bricks is coming into picture? We have a Azure Data Bricks also. So Azure Data Factory we are using to ingest the data from data sources to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, and we are also using the same Azure Data Factory to transform the data. Then where exactly we are using this Azure Data Bricks? Previously we were not used Azure Data Factory to do the transformation. There was no transformation. So from 2 years ago, we are having a transformation directly in the data factory itself. The starting of in the version 1, in the starting of version 2, we are not having this data flow. So there is a newly added 2 years ago, that is data flow. So this data flow is helping us to do the transformation as part of the data factory. So prior that what is the option to do the transformation? Prior that, data factory will be used for data ingestion, and for transformation we used to go for Azure Databricks. So by using the Azure Databricks, we used to do the transformation. How we are going to do the transformation by using Azure Databricks is by creating a notebooks. So here you can use we used PySpark and SQL to do the transformation. I'm going to take you through how we can use this PySpark and how we can use the SQL as part of this notebooks to transform the data. And not only transforming, we can also use for reading also. Whatever the Azure Data Factory is doing, the same thing you can do it with the ADB also. So when there was no transformation as part of this data factory, we used to go for Azure Databricks to transform the data. So when we are going to use this Azure Databricks to transform the data is when you have a very huge volume of data and when you have a semi-structured data. But if you have a structured data, even now we are having alternative way to do the transformation. You can use the Azure Databricks ADB to transform the data. In many projects we are having Azure Databricks to transform the data. Apart from this, there is an alternative way also still to transform the data, that is stored procedures. Stored procedures, you can the stored procedures are going to be applicable only if data source is SQL Server. If a data source is a Azure SQL Server, then you can go for stored procedures. And yes, when we are going to use the stored procedure is 100% is if we have a structured data. If we have a structured data, then we are going to use it. If we have a semi-structured data, no stored procedures. If you have a unstructured data, we don't even think about stored procedures. You need to have a less volume of data and you need to have a structured data, then we can go for the stored procedures to transform the data. In my previous project, we used completely stored procedures to transform the data. In my current project, we are using Azure Data Factory as well as Azure Databricks. Both we are using to do it. So stored procedures also is there, but not for transformations. We are using stored procedures for configuration details. Okay, it all depends on the situation, depends on the requirement, depends on the budget. We are going to decide. I'll talk about more in detail about these differences, when you can choose Azure Data Factory, when you can choose Azure Databricks, and when you can suggest to go with stored procedures. You'll get more in detail later. So once we are done transformation, either any one of them, and then we are going to store the data into the destination, that is Azure Data Lake Storage N2. And if you are doing transformation with stored procedures, 100% your destination is not a data lake storage N2. 100% it is a SQL Server. Okay, it was different thing. We'll talk about this. If I talk all this together here, you'll get a lot of confusion. Just think that Azure Data Factory will be used to do transformation. ADB we can use it for transformation, and stored procedures also we can use to do the transformation. But how, when is important. We'll talk about it later. Now just imagine I have a cleansed data as part of this Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So once you have a cleansed data here, the reporting users can take a data from here to their Power BI or to their reporting. Just imagine your reporting here, reporting tool is Microsoft Power BI. You just imagine. Reporting tools are, let's say, Power BI, since it is trending for Microsoft. I'm just saying Microsoft Power BI. I can take the data from here directly. I can take the data from Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 to your Power BI. This is one of the thing. And another one is we can load this data into Azure Data Warehouse. Azure Data Warehouse. ADWS. So in order to load this data into this place, there are various options are there here. You can use the ADF to load the data here, or you can create a external tables, logical data warehouse also we can create it. Physical tables will be there and external tables will be there. So external tables, if we have a external tables, we don't require to have a physical data. Data is not going to be physically available here in the external tables. These external tables are going to point to the data store, and you can use those external tables as part of the Power BI, or you can bring them into the tabular models. So this is not our stuff. This is someone else is going to do it. The upstream systems or upstream teams are going to take care about it. We are not going to be part of it. So data is going to be taken by your SSAS here. The tabular models they're going to have, and then they're going to access it by using Power BI. So this is one of the approach that they're going to do it. Apart from that, they can also take a data directly from here to your Power BI. That is also possible. And they can also create a normal SQL server also. Azure SQL DB, I can say. You can load this data, cleanse the data into Azure SQL DBs, and from there your Power BI is going to be taken directly by Power BI, or you can also give it to this place. So this all will be decided by the architects how they wanted to provide the solution. Your target will be report. The business, why they're taking all this thing is to see the report. So to view the report developers are dependent on these people are dependent on us. So we are going to be part of this first stage and second stage. We are going to be part of your first stage and second stage as data engineers. And BI developers are going to be part of this particular part. And you can also be part of this to store the data here or into this particular place by using the Azure Data Factory. Okay, so these are all the components that we are going to have it. And as part of the sessions that we are going to see the data ingestion and data transformation with Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks. Any questions as of now?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Here, data is loading two times into the same ADLS. One
Yes,
is the raw data, one is the other one is cleansed
cleanse the
data.
data. Yeah.
So here is just like second time is just like replace the raw data or is maintaining
No,
two
I'm
different
just saying I'm just saying here ADLS Gen 2 the containers will be different. You're going to have a raw container here, it is a cleansed container. So containers will be there, different containers that we are going to have here. Let us say it is a ADLS account slash raw container. Okay, so when it comes to here, processed containers will be different, folders will be different. Simple way, in simple words, I can say. You got my point, right?
Yeah, got it.
And some people they have a different accounts also. So separate account for raw data, separate account for cleanse data. Okay, so some people they will be having same account but containers will be different. We are using different containers.
Okay.
Okay, so container is nothing but a folder.
Okay.
Okay, any other question as of now?
Uh,
I have one question
hey,
regarding cleansed
sorry, go
data.
ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
please.
So is the cleansed data the structured data? I mean, what is the difference between the raw data and cleansed data? What conditions to apply to make it as a cleansed data?
Okay, good. So data ingestion means however the data is there in the business, it is going to give it. Let's say for example, let's take a gender. Some people they may enter as M or F, a female, something like this. They may enter it. I'm just taking an example. So cleanse the data means you're going to apply the transformation. We don't show four values. If you show four values in the report, what happens is four boxes, four columns will be there. But basically we'll be having only two, right? So we need to do the transformation. If you do the transformation here, it kills the performance. So we don't do the transformation. We dump the data as it is into the raw. And here we are going to apply transformation by using the if condition. If gender equals to M, then show it as a male. I'm just giving general expression here. Okay. Else, you can say one more condition. If gender equals to F, then it is a female. Else, it is a gender. You getting my point? So this kind of transformation we can say it is a like data cleansing. And you have a transaction date, or let's say T date. This is a date, but I required here month name also. Month is required. Month in the form of characters. So when the in the transaction system, you are going to have a transaction date, not the parts of the date. So you have to bring that month from the date. So how you can get it? You have to write a condition. You have to write a case statement. If month number equals to, again month number you are going to get it from the date. If month number equals to 1 Jan, if month number equals to 2, it is Feb. So we are going to save the data. You're getting my point?
Yes, yes.
So this kind of things we are going to say, and one more thing is data is coming from the multiple places. Let's say you have a customer data with multiple files. I wanted to integrate them. So integration means as a single file. Even here raw files centralized location, but files are multiple files. I wanted to integrate them as a single file. That you can do it with only transformation. So data combining, data deriving, that means creation of the columns, and data restrictions, data aggregations, SCD type 1 and type 2, all those things that we can call it as a transformations. So right after doing the transformation, whatever the data is loaded here, this data is ready for reporting. So because of that reason, the reporting team will come to here and they can take it. And if they wanted to have their own specific kind of calculations, they can go for different kind of approaches by taking data from here. So this data is ready for analysis. That is what intent.
Okay. So we focus more on the transformation part, right?
Data ingestion also is important. If you
Important.
have
Okay.
a multiple files, how you can make it dynamic. Okay, so let's say I have 100 different files. You cannot create 100 pipelines to do it. Okay, if you have 100 pipelines, run and maintenance is difficult. For 100 files, I can go and create only one pipeline. The main one pipeline is going to call a few pipelines to make it dynamic. That you can do it. So data ingestion is also important. We don't know how many number of columns are there, how many number of files are there. So with one thing that we can handle it. So we are going to see how we can handle all those things. So data ingestion also is important. So they may give the files in the form of zip. You need to unzip it before taking data into ADLS. Your data source is a zip file they have given. They zip it and they send it to you. And that zip file you need to unzip and you need to load the data into this place. Then you can go for transformation.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Bhaskar Rajni here. Quick question. The first box we talked about, the business system or the OLTP system, does it have to be in the file format, or AD or the Azure can support other databases like Oracle, DB2, etc.?
Yes, it will support.
So we can fetch the data from Oracle, from different databases, right?
Yes,
Like
we have a
ERP systems, SAP systems, etc.
connectors. You can use the connectors as from SAP also. We can take data and we can take it from Snowflake database also. We have a
Okay.
more than 100 connectors.
Okay. The other
Okay.
question I have is the ADLS Gen 2, like the ROD Gen 2 box, ADLS Gen 2 uh, storage locations we are talking about, the either the raw data or the cleansed data, they can be in
Okay.
the tabular format too. They can be tables too, or they just have to be files.
Parquet files. We are going to take it because I'll talk
I'm
about
sorry.
it.
Can you repeat that?
Parquet file format.
Also, they have to be in the file format. Not we can't
Yes.
store them in the table format.
No, table format, but the data is going to be there in the Parquet.
Okay.
Data is a structured data. You may have a structured data or semi-structured data, but your final target is 100% is Parquet file format. And even here also, if there is a possibilities, we are going to make that your files are going to be converted into different kind of formats. So the
Okay.
recommended format is Parquet file format. I'll talk about why we need to go for Parquet file format. This is important. It reduces the size 75% of your actual storage.
So even though this cleansed data is not in tables, the reporting tools like Power BI or Cognos or Tableau still could connect to them and fetch the data
I'm
and
not
generate
sure about
dashboards.
I'm not I'm not sure about the Cognos, but Power BI can take data from the Parquet file format also. So let's say,
Okay.
for example, if you can bring the data after transformation into CSV, you can bring it.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing is, if it is just imagine it is taking 100 MB size. Just
Mm-hmm.
imagine the file size. But if you can store the same data with the Parquet file format, it is going to reduce 75%. That means 0.25 MB.
Okay.
Instead of storing the data into .csv, if you can store the data in the form of .parquet file format, it is going to take only the size is 75% is going to be reduced. So 0.25 MB. So your storage cost is going to be reduced and your processing time also reduced, so that you are going to reduce your cost also. So I'll give
Okay.
the differentiation why we need to go for Parquet. You can keep the storage any kind of format here, .csv or .text or Excel, any kind of format you can keep it here.
Okay.
Okay. Only thing is, to improve the processing performance and to reduce the storage cost, we can go for Parquet. It's a free open source it is, and Microsoft is not only Microsoft, many vendors are trying to store the data in the form of Parquet.
Okay.
Okay. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me take you through the content, what we are going to say as part of this sessions. Introduction to Microsoft Azure. I'm going to take you through what kind of services we're having and what is the way that we are going to create an account as part of this introduction. And we're also going to say what are the different kind of storages that we can do it in Azure account. Blob storage account, the differences between Blob and Azure Data Lake storage, I'm going to take you through Blob versus ADLS, when we can go for ADLS and when we can go for Blob, that we are going to see as part of the storages. And we're also going to see Azure SQL database. That means in the starting, we're going to talk about the storages. So storages in the form of files and storages in the form of databases that we are going to see as part of this. And how we can access the storage if we have a storage in ADLS or if we have a storage in ADLS or Blob, how we can access it, that we are going to see as part of this. And once we have done the storages, then we are going to start talking about Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory, what are the components? So if you wanted to move data from one place to another place, what we required, how we can create a link services, how we can create a data sets, and how we can use the runtimes, what kind of runtimes we're having, what are the different types of activities that we're having. So all those things, I'm already opened one of the data factory. So like we are going to have a different kind of activities, we're going to see here. So this ADF is not only for extraction, transformation, and loading. So this is also for a data scientist. They can also use the data scientist by calling your notebooks. You can call your notebooks. I mean to say, by using the Databricks, we can provide the solution. So how we can use the Databricks notebooks to automate as part of this Azure Data Factory, that we are going to see how we can integrate it. And HD Insights is Hadoop. If you have any Hadoop solutions, if you wanted to integrate with Azure Data Factory, you can do it. And even if you have a traditional SSIS project, if you wanted to integrate and automate it directly from the data factory, that also is possible. And different kind of activities that we are having here. So whatever is there as part of the content that we are going to see, how we can do it. So I told you transformation, the transformation is going to be done with the data flow. We have a various transformations here. If we can see a different kind of transformations that we are having to apply transformation as per the business requirement. We don't require to write a code. We can use drag and drops. So that is what it is. We have a copy data activity for data ingestion, data flow for data transformation. So in order to control this move and transform, we have a general activities, iteration activities. So if you have 100 files, then you need to iterate the loop. We need to take one by file, one by one, and we need to move the data. Once the data is reading is completed, we need to archive the folders. So all those things that we can say as part of the data factory. And if at all if the data factory is failed, then you can go with the logic app. But recently we have a latest change that we can use directly Azure Data Factory itself. If there is any failure, we can get the alerts. So we don't require this logic app. So previously we used to go with the logic app, but now we can use directly Azure Data Factory itself to get the alerts. And we're also going to say Azure Data Factory real-time scenarios. All the scenarios more than 25 that we're having here, but I guess I can take you through more 30 real-time scenarios that we are going to see as part of this regular sessions. So step by step I'm going to take you through, you can feel and you can easily understand that. So once that is completed, once data factory is completed, we are going to start talking about Azure Databricks. So in Azure Databricks, I'm going to take you through the two different APIs. One is RDD, Resilient Distributed Dataset, and Data Frame. So 99% is you are going to use the data frame at the time of working, but I'm also going to take you through this RDD. It is a old approach before this data frame. And once the data is sitting into the ADLS, most of the times we are going to have a structured data. So when you have a structured data, we can directly go for data frame. So as we are working with the BI systems, 90% is we are going to have a structured data in the form of different extensions of the files. So even you can use this data frame to read the data from semi-structured data also, like JSON files. If you have a different kind of branches, if you have that, you can read data from there by using data frame. So I recommend you to go for data frame. And if at all, if you have RDD, like if you have a unstructured data, then we are going to use the RDD, simple. So RDD will be used for unstructured data to make it structured. And once you have a structure, then again we need to bring into the data frame. Your RDD has to be converted into data frame, then you can apply transformations. So that kind of things that we are going to see as part of this Databricks. So it's a Azure Databricks, but in-cell practices that we are going to say with the Databricks to avoid costing. And we are also going to see how we can use the Azure Databricks also. To create a Azure Databricks, you need to have a license, you need to have a paid subscription, simply we can say, not free subscription. We need to have a paid subscription to work with Azure Databricks. So because of that reason, I'm going to take you through most of the things with the community Databricks edition, most of the things. And there is a repository. Repository is not possible to use as part of this community edition. I'm going to take you through with Azure Databricks. So Azure Data Factory also is going to have a like what we can say, repository is going to be there. So how we can create a repository, how we can collaborate your work with multiple developers, how parallelly people are going to work, all those things we are going to say, how we can maintain it, we are going to talk about it as part of this. So when there is no data repository with the community edition, that from that particular place I'm going to use Azure Data Bricks. So that I'm going to take you through as part of this. And then the finally how end-to-end project explanation, how it is going to be there, how data is going to get it, the entire approach that I'm going to take you through as part of this. The approach only I'm going to take you through more in detail, how exactly you're going to start, and how do you know that is started, how do you know that is completed, how you can maintain the configuration details, how you can maintain the logging details, all those details I'm going to talk as part of this particular place. Okay, so this is about the content. You can take this content from the from career IT, you can take it and you can go through the content what we are going to discuss. Okay, so there are something which are not even mentioned in the content, so do not think it is like I am going to touch something which is not even available in the content. So situations demands in some places. Okay, so any questions as of now?
Um, do we have, before you start Databricks, do we need to have any knowledge about Python?
Python basics are required. Even if you have a knowledge with Python basics, that is fine. I recommend you to go the Python basics. You can search for in YouTube and you can go for the Python basics and SQL basics to understand the ADB. These two are
Okay.
required. Okay.
So are you going to cover in the Python basics also in this training program, or is it like that's something we need
Uh,
to do as homework?
that you have to do it with your own. The basics is not just like you need to understand like what is a list, what is a tuple,
Mhm.
and creating a function. That is more enough for me.
Okay.
Okay. So go with that level only. We don't require too deeper into the Python because Python is something else it is, but we don't require that much for data engineering. So whatever is required for data engineering, that is more enough. But still, I'm going to take you through what is a list and what is a tuple, but I'm not going in a order. So better just go through this basics. You can find in a YouTube feelings. You can go through that, and I'll take you through how the list is there, how you can extract the data from the list, and how tuple is there, and how the key value is going to be there. How do you know what kind of data it is? So that is important because like when I'm going for RDD, if I'm using any function, we can understand easily how the function is going to be there. How we can create a function if some places, let's say for example, RDD is not going to handle the nulls. So you need to create a custom function. I'm going to explain about the function, what it is going to do when I'm going to create a function. But if you have an idea how you can create a function, at least the syntax, so that is going to help you to understand more when I'm going to explain. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other
Uh,
questions?
yeah, other than Python and SQL, what are the other, are there any prerequisites?
We don't require any prerequisite. These two are much more enough.
Okay. And what tools do we need to install?
We don't require to install at this point of time. I'll take you through what we require to install for Data Factory, Databricks. We don't require to install anything. It's a
Okay.
service. It's a cloud service. Okay. So I'll take you through. If there is any installation, I'm going to take you through how we can set it up.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So that's all for Azure Data Factory and Databricks introduction session, what we are going to discuss. So if you need any other details, you can check with the career IT team. And if it is anything that is related to subject, you can ask me. Okay, then
So,
I'm winding up here. Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Do you have any question?
so at this point, you don't know when you're going to start the classes, right? Or
That
that's
is
something you have to take up with the career ID.
yes, you're right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
then
Good night.
thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon.
Mhm.
Thanks for the demo.
Thank you.